Welcome to another program organized by Marty. Tonight our program is about the role of interfaith and intercultural dialogue on preventing another 9/11. And tonight we also remember those who have died and suffered from those attacks on 9/11. First, I'd like to invite Mr. Emre Çelik, the president of Rumi Forum in Washington, D.C., for his opening remarks. Please welcome Mr. Çelik.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Rumi Forum and members of the Turkish American community, I welcome you all. As Turkish Americans, we are proud members and hopefully productive members of American society. Organizations like the Rumi Forum, Marty, and numerous others that we are honored to be associated with are involved in numerous activities in regards to Turkish Americans, whether they be new or established members of society, through projects of engagement, integration, through educational and informative courses and seminars, in the hope of overcoming, of course, misunderstanding and coming to understand what American values are about and how much they are in common with those of Turkish background. And in essence, it is about engagement and dialogue. It's important that we respect the shared values of democracy and freedom of speech and the opportunity to succeed that America provides for all of us. Part of remembering 9/11 10 years on is respecting these shared values and how they are dear and rich for each of us. In this light, organizations like the Rumi Forum, Marty, and the numerous sister organizations that we are affiliated with are working hard in a diverse and multicultural society to bridge the gap and encourage social harmony between both members, between organizations, and within the wider society at large. And this is crucial and is responsible of not only Turkish Americans, but all Americans, all those who profess to value democracy, freedom of speech, and respecting others. And it's within this framework that we will continue to work, continue to consult other organizations, in particular the agencies that are represented here, and we are very honored to have numerous members amongst us. And in light of 9/11, we need to be, of course, working for the preventative measures. Once evil is committed, it's very difficult, but our collective, positive and proactive approach, I am sure, will lead to measures that will please all of us. And I thank each and every one of you, and in particular the representatives of the agency this evening for attending. Thank you again, and have a most pleasant evening.
Thank you, Mr. Çelik, for your remarks. Now I'd like to welcome Sheriff Darren Mark Popkin for his remarks. Please welcome. Yeah, can you put it high?
Well, I want to thank you for allowing me to come up and say a few words tonight with your group. On behalf of the approximately 200 men and women of the Sheriff's Office, we're certainly honored that you would have us here in appreciation for 10 years after the 9/11 event. People say that you remember where you are in certain events that occur, whether it be the space shuttle blowing up in the number of years ago, remembering exactly where you were. But one of the events that certainly has that impact is the 9/11 situation back 10 years ago. And I want you to know that I was in the courthouse just right around the block from here 10 years ago on that day in the morning. And I received a phone call from the chief judge, who was, the chief judge at that time was Paul Weinstein, who is now retired. And he called me up to his chambers and he asked me, what are we supposed to do? We have 500 jurors in the building today. We have a number, probably another 1,000 people between workers in the building, as well as other citizens who are coming, residents of Montgomery County coming in the building. What do we do? We had 2 very large murder cases going on that day in Montgomery County, and the jurors were sitting in court without the use of the internet, without the use of telephones, and really were not aware of what was going on in the surroundings. But it was an event that had never occurred. So what do we do? 10 years ago, really, what do we do? Because law enforcement wasn't exactly prepared for that. So what we had to do is systematically go throughout the building and let people know, as they were sitting in these courtrooms trying to decide somebody's guilt or innocence, whether, do we let you go home? Do we let you stay? Well, I don't know about you all, but for those of you who are here, most of the people in that building wanted to go home. I mean, they wanted to be with their families. They were very concerned of what was going on. It was just never something that had happened here in the United States. It happened elsewhere, and not here. So at that particular time, we did. We let everybody go home. Probably about 2,000 people emptied out of that building that day. Most people went home. And then we ended up closing the building because then the employees felt that they couldn't stay. The employees needed to go home. But what happened after that? The building's empty. We locked the building. There's no employees left in there. But that's when I start getting phone calls from our deputy sheriffs who are home and they're off duty because we work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And they want to come back to work because they want to come help. They want to get back in the community. They want to be able to help what's going on, even though they'd be leaving their families and making a conscientious choice to leave their families alone when really we don't know what else is going to happen, whether or not there'd be actually more events that occurred. And there were a few more after the Trade Center that particular day. But what has happened since? I mean, we really have we took a bad event, and in the 10 years since this occurred, we are all working much better together. The world is a dangerous place in certain parts of the world and will remain that way until dialogue and education kind of wins out for that. But here in the United States, things have gotten better. And the law enforcement is working much more closely with the community. We have to somehow be able to integrate these type of events that you're having tonight and let us come and let us be able to speak and tell you what we do. Because unless we understand completely what you all do, how your community works, then we can't understand completely. So these dialogues help tremendously. When I told my staff that I was coming here tonight and was able to say a few words, they were very happy with the fact that this was another community that we would be working towards. I would ask you that my workforce in the Sheriff's Office, we have a very, very diverse workforce, but we have no Turkish Americans that are in my workforce. So if as time goes on and your community feels more comfortable, maybe getting into law enforcement would be a large step forward, because for us to completely understand, once we have people from every part of communities in our workforce, it makes it much more understanding to be in the community as well. Now, in Montgomery County, the Sheriff's Office has a specific role, and we're not necessarily doing the investigations. That's really the number of police departments include Chief Manger and his staff that do a fantastic job, and the municipal agencies as well. And so, you know, when you may have a hate crime or some sort of crime like that, sometimes people don't want to report it. But I want you to know that when these come to the attention of the police department, they take the highest priority to look at things like that. And so the more we understand, not your community, but all communities, the more we allow them, you know, to come forward, the more that people feel the comfort level to be able to discuss with us and us to you, that brings the community together and allows us to make sure that we don't have another event like we had 10 years ago. I don't ever want to see what I saw in the courthouse that day. I mean, I saw people who were crying. I saw just teared, people wanted to get home. It was a terrible event. I will tell you, the closest thing that's come to that in the last 10 years was 2 weeks ago when the courthouse was swaying back and forth from the earthquake that we had never experienced before when I was sitting in my office, because people were very frightened, and I think some people didn't know. They thought maybe there was something going on again. But that's the you know, where we currently are, and fortunately that was an earthquake. But really, things have gotten better. We meet regularly as a law enforcement group. We go over things, and if there is trouble with the community, or if there is something that you need to bring to our attention, please don't hesitate, because that way we do have the ability to come together and make things better, so this type of event really does not ever happen again. And I appreciate, again, the opportunity on behalf of all the 200 members of the Sheriff's Office to be able to come and just say a few words. And I'd be glad to you know, provide my contact information, email and phone number if anybody would like to contact me afterwards. And thank you very much for the few minutes.
Well, thank you for inviting me. Thank you for inviting members of my staff, who I'm going to introduce in just a moment. It's always a pleasure to visit my friends at Marty. I always eat well when I get here. Thank you very much for that hospitality. I brought 3 of my district commanders. We have 6 district stations throughout Montgomery County. And I brought 3 of my district commanders here so that you can start to see more than just my face and understand that there are over 1,000 police officers out in the community that care about you and care about your safety. The commander of the Silver Spring Station is Don Johnson. The commander of the Wheaton Station is John Damsky. And the commander of the Rockville Station, we're in the Rockville district right now, so the commander of the Rockville Station is James Fenner. Now, and there's as I said, 6 district stations. These are the commanders of 3 of them. We understand the importance, and these gentlemen understand the importance of doing outreach. I think that the Rumi Forum, the work that they do in terms of outreach and promoting dialogue is tremendous. And we actually have the same responsibility. We have a very diverse community, and I know, for instance, that Commander Johnson, Silver Spring, has the Muslim Community Center in his district. We have all of the district commanders have mosques in their districts that they have done outreach to, that they have gotten to know the leaders at those faith institutions, so that if there's something that happens, if they receive a threat, if they are concerned about their safety, they know who to contact to get the assistance that they need. And that's one of the points when I was here just a few weeks ago for the iftar dinner. I talked about the issue of hate crimes and our response to these hate crimes. And the most important point that I had and that I emphasized was the fact that people need to know that we care about them, and they need to report these things when they happen. Because there are still people that see us in these uniforms and think, well, they might not understand my problem. They might not understand why I don't feel safe. They might not take my complaint seriously. That will not happen. We do take these things seriously. We understand how dangerous and what an impact hate crimes have on a community. So the message that I wanted to emphasize so much then is the same message I want to emphasize now, that we are your police department and that you can depend on us to help you when you need the help when you need help. I want to just mention one thing, tell one story. Up in Germantown right now, there's, and the reason I'm telling you this story is because part of what the Rumi Forum does is promote dialogue. And oftentimes that dialogue can make you uncomfortable. You're talking about things that just, yeah, you know, it'd be easier not to talk about because there's some conflict there and there's things that might make you a little uneasy. So I apologize if anybody feels a little uneasy about this, but we have a situation up in Germantown. We have a doctor who is performing late-term abortions. And he actually originally started in, help me out, was it Kansas or Arkansas? Where is it? Nevada. No, okay, well, but it's somewhere in elsewhere in the United States. And he and Dr. Carhart is his name, and he and a colleague were performing these procedures, which are very controversial. And in fact, there's many, and as you know, that abortion is a very emotional issue, a very volatile issue that people have very strong opinions about. And we now have this clinic in Germantown, right in Montgomery County. Well, every day, we have protesters who are protesting the fact that this clinic is there. You have people that are supporting the clinic. And you have these two groups of people that are opposed to each other. Every day, we worry about when these signs, the shouting, and all of the rhetoric that goes on, when that's going to turn from more than just people screaming at each other, when it's going to take that next step and become a crime, and somebody might actually get hurt or worse. Dr. Carhart's colleague was killed, and not here, but and so we're certainly concerned about something bad happening here. So what have we done? Well, we knew that this was going to be a very controversial issue. We knew how the emotions that were going to be associated with, and the numbers of people. I mean, we've had hundreds and hundreds of people up there protesting on some weekends. We knew that we had to reach out to both of those groups, and we had to talk to them. And we had to make sure that we would respect their right of freedom of speech, but that's where it had to end. That we weren't going to allow things to get out of hand. We weren't going to allow these views that were certainly opposed to each other manifest themselves into anything that was a crime. And so we were the ones that reached out, started that dialogue with both groups. We have been very consistent about letting them know what they can and can't do. But it has been a challenge for us and continues to be a challenge. And it shows no signs of stopping. This is going to go on, unfortunately, I think, for a long time. I tell that story because it is about dialogue. You have people that disagree with each other on a very emotional level. Disagreements that have resulted in people getting hurt and killed in other places. We don't want to have that happen here. In fact, we don't want it to happen anywhere. And the reason that we have things like 9/11, the reason that we have things like the shooting in Norway, the reason we have tragic incidents all over the world is because people don't talk, because people don't reach out and try to understand someone who might think differently than they do. So the work that the Rumi Forum does is tremendous. And I think that it contributes to the peace and well-being of our community and every community where Rumi Forum has reached out to. And so for that, we thank you. I mean, it's our responsibility to keep this community safe. And when you have community partners like Marty and the Rumi Forum, it helps make our job easier. I really feel like every time I get a phone call or a letter or a visit from someone from Marty, I know that I'm among friends. And I appreciate that, and my police officers understand that. And you know, Sheriff Popkin talked about the importance of reflecting the diversity of the community. We do have a number of Muslim officers, and I'll tell you that makes us a better police department. When you have folks that look like the community, that understand the community, you're a better police department. We're all better for it. And so thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for this recognition. It means a great deal to all of us, and God bless you.
Thank you, Chief Manger, for your very nice remarks. Now I'd like to invite Lieutenant Eric over for his remarks. Please welcome Lieutenant over.
All right, first and foremost, I want to thank everybody for the opportunity to come up here and just basically give everybody our feelings on some of the programs that we offer the community. I want to apologize, first of all. Chief Tresick, I don't know if he had an opportunity to tell everybody the reason why he couldn't show up tonight. He is having surgery first thing in the morning at 6 o'clock to repair a torn bicep. He was kind enough to ask me to be a representative and come forward and speak to you all briefly about some of the programs the city has in our community outreach. He greatly wanted to be here. I was honored that he actually asked me to come and speak on his behalf. So again, I apologize that he wasn't here. When we talk about 9/11, some of the things that come to mind, and one of the things I read in the email was a discussion about heroes. It's a commemoration of the heroes. And one of the things that comes to mind is when we think of heroes, we think of the fire department, we think of EMS, we think of the police. In its basic sense, a hero is somebody, a remarkably brave person. I think it goes beyond that. I think our heroes in our society are the educators that preach the message of peace to the community. Our heroes are our parents that raised children with strong ethical values. With that, I hold them as heroes as well. We talk about community engagement, and as Chief Manger indicated, it's really getting the message out and building trust between the police department and the community. We value that extremely highly. One of the things that we do, and I'm sure Chief Manger and his deputy commanders will attest to, is we try and get out in the community as much as possible. In our level, we send our administrative personnel to the different community meetings, to the community organizations to discuss what the police department does. We discuss crime trends that might be taking place, and we try and engage those community organizations in any problems they might be having in a public forum to bring those ideas or those problems forward to us where they otherwise wouldn't have brought them forward. It's building the trust. It's building the trust with those organizations. Rockville of itself, in and of itself, is we have I would say 47 or 50 different cultures that are represented in Rockville alone, and it's difficult, but we accomplish the goal of reaching out to every one of those cultures. I can't stress to you enough the importance of building the trust, as Chief Manger said. Without that, we're ineffective. It's invaluable, quite frankly. I'm reluctant to bring this up. We're talking about a story. Chief Hopkin had brought this up, and I'm reluctant to bring this up only because we talk about stereotypes. And all right, where was I? 9/11. My wife woke me up. I saw a plane. She'd said a plane crashed into one of the towers. I said, "Oh my God! It's a tragedy. It's somebody really screwed up." And then while I'm watching the news, I see the second plane crash into the tower. I'm sitting there watching this unfold, and it's kind of a numbing feeling, thinking to yourself, wow, it's very unlikely that it's a second mistake. With that said, at the time I was a military police officer and a reservist in the military police, and I knew right then and there that I was probably going to be called to active duty. I knew something big was going on, and as the days unfolded, within about a month and a half, I was pulled to active duty. I served as a military police officer with the 372nd Military Police Company. The number itself might not be really significant to anybody in here, but if I mention Abu Ghraib, I think everybody would probably make a connection. Well, that was my MP unit. I was assigned to the 372nd MP company that was assigned to Abu Ghraib. In fact, I worked very closely with a lot of the soldiers that were prosecuted. We talk about stereotypes. When that broke the news, everybody said, Abu Ghraib, the 372nd MP company, what a bunch of morons. Well, I'm here to tell you it wasn't that way at all. In fact, the 372nd MP Company, my unit was actually tasked to Al-Hilla, which is right outside or right next to Babylon. And the unit that I was assigned to was tasked with fugitive retrievals, going out and retrieving the fugitives that Saddam Hussein had released from his prisons. We were very successful. The unit was very successful. We were able to accomplish our mission with 0 casualties, which was extremely remarkable. The unit itself was in line for the Presidential Unit Citation, and they were retasked with Abu Ghraib, basically a prison duty at Abu Ghraib, when Abu Ghraib, the scandal broke about the prisoner abuses. When I talk about stereotypes, it was the actions of 5 or 7 individuals in my unit that made everybody else look extremely bad. I can tell you from firsthand knowledge, firsthand experience, that there are over 120 soldiers in that unit that were top-notch soldiers that knew what their missions were and didn't stray from that mission, and they truly believed they were doing the right thing. But Abu Ghraib, when it broke in the media, overshadowed all the good things they were doing. As I said, the 372nd MP was slated to get the Presidential Unit Citation, but when Abu Ghraib broke, the military powers that be thought better of it and decided not to award it, because how would it look in the public eyes? A unit that was involved in this big scandalous affair was now all of a sudden awarded the Presidential Unit Citation. I think we have the same thing here when it comes to Islam. It's a lack of understanding. It's not knowing all the facts. And I think, you know, your efforts to reach out to the community and bring people in so that they have a better understanding will go a long way to alleviating any of those misunderstandings and possibly the stereotypes that sometimes we see pop up in our society. I commend you for those efforts. I stand committed, along with all our law enforcement partners, to do our best to make sure that the partnership exists and that we can build on the trust that you all have certainly brought to light. So, thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Oversh, for your nice remarks. Now, for the last speaker, I'd like to invite Jane Gaffney. She's still here. Okay. Yeah, Jane Gaffney is an anthropologist, and she was in the Foreign Service before, and her interests were East and Central Africa. So please welcome Ms. Gaffney.
First of all, I'd like to thank our hosts for the opportunity to participate with our friends from the community here to talk about this subject. Where were we on 9/11? I certainly remember I was in my office in the State Department. At that time, I was working on public diplomacy, which is basically outreach to other countries. My area was the Middle East. Strategic communications is the other way it's referred to. I also had the TV on and saw the first plane go in, and it was surreal. I mean, it was numbing, as people have said. By the time you see the second plane, then you know what's going on. And as all of you know, because it was so close to us, the Pentagon also was hit, and in a very serious way. 2 days later, I was in the Pentagon. And I was, like several of my colleagues, we were working with our counterparts in the Pentagon and DOD in the field of strategic communications about how we can do better outreach and how we can serve the situation at hand so that we don't make relations worse as a result of this. And I was working with people who had lost friends, they'd lost colleagues, and there they were. And they were working 12, 14 hours a day. And I have to say that for the next 2.5 years, we all did. And the encouragement that we got was from seeing them do it, right from the day when they were really the walking wounded, as you said, for that. What I'm here to say, though, today is from having served in various capacities that dealt with terrorism since 9/11, is that the good news is that the mentality of Al-Qaeda is fading away. I think a big stake in its heart came this spring in the Arab world where masses of young people peacefully, with very solid ideals of wanting democracy and a good future for themselves and their countries, managed to overturn dictators without firing a single bullet. And wanting to have a kind of society that is totally an anathema to what this very small group of people in Al-Qaeda or its subsidiaries sees as what they would like to see the future of. So they're not feeling very good in terms of that. The other thing that's happened is, as you all know, thanks to our military efforts, their leadership has essentially been decapitated as well. So we're now dealing with sort of a wounded animal, which, as you all know, is very, very dangerous. But I would like to say that we cannot prevent another 9/11. But we can defeat its aim. Terrorism, as you may know, is not a military tool. It's a political and psychological tool whereby the action is as a piece of theater, if you will, in order to strike fear or anger or something else in your heart so that you react in a way that furthers their cause. And that was what Osama bin Laden intended. Here are the things he actually said. One of them was not, you know, joking about Gorbachev saying, not Gorbachev, sorry, Khrushchev saying, we will bury you, about the United States. His comment was, we will bankrupt you. And that means all the money that has gone into the efforts to protect the United States and deal with our wars. The other thing he said is, you talk about your values, your freedom, your tolerance. We're going to do things that show that that's all nonsense. That's not really what your society is about. Just scrape the surface and you're going to see that, you know, you're going to react terribly and you're going to hurt other people in the Muslim community and your democracy will disappear. And so really our goal, and I think we all share this, is to make sure that that doesn't happen. That we all, as Americans, regardless of who we are, that we stick together, we respect each other, and we work towards the kind of mutual understanding that prevents any kind of retribution or such things in the United States. And it's a result of those efforts, both by the Muslim community in the United States and by local government and law enforcement right there in the trenches that have helped us stay safe. A very large number of the terrorists that have been caught in the United States before they were able to do any harm were people that were, the community informed the police about them or the FBI, and then as a result have saved their communities from this kind of terror. And I can say today that the kind of trust that you all engender in the communities here is really the model of what is needed. And I say that because there's a real challenge here, and that is there are organized groups in the United States who are quite ready to help Osama bin Laden with his hate-mongering by trying to get Americans to turn against their Muslim neighbors. And we have seen that in a variety of ways, programs to stop communities all around America from building mosques. We've seen them stop a school that was going to be built in New York that was going to be an experimental Arabic language school. They have introduced laws that have passed in a variety of states in the United States to stop Sharia law where they think it is, one knows not, but nevertheless. They have committees to stop the Islamization of America. As ridiculous as this sounds, a lot of people have come to believe this relentless hate propaganda. And some of the concerns I know this community has is a result of that kind of organized campaign. And one other thing that they have done is to work themselves into the circuit for police training. And that's something also that you know, your community, I'm sure, will be well aware of if they try to do it with you. But I really see that we are winning. The people who are seeking tolerance and peace and a way out of all of this really are winning. And we're winning not just here, but if you look around the world and look at what's happened in the Middle East, for instance, and also so many other places, people are voting for peace and democracy. And it's just now for us to make sure that in the United States we stay safe and we just stick with our own values. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gaffney, for your remarks. That ends our program, but please feel free to stay, and we have some refreshments left, tea and other drinks, and thank you all for coming tonight.